this video is Satan is the master of all lies and he rules this world. Everything that you think you know or being told and you think you believe is all a lie. Everything in this world is in total reverse. And when I say everything, I mean everything. If you actually thought about it and become aware of it, as I have in the very late stage of my life, basically lived like most people, asleep and in the dark for 60 years. And I have been unaware of the real world that is actually around me. The world that I thought I was living in. I thought that was the real world. I thought that it wasn't perfect and it had, many faults. And certainly we know the planet is not in the best way, which is why my nose is running right now. The environment and stuff. We're aware of that, but we kind of think that we still know what's going on, and that there is still a certain amount of truth amongst all the mistruths, shall we say. But in reality, almost everything is a deception from the day you're born till the day you die, unless you happen to wake up at some point and start to see some of the bigger lies. And once you start to see some, it's a bit like a lot of things. Then you say, well, if this is a lie, then why can't that be a lie? Because you sort of say, hey, if that can be possible, and if that was a trick, and if that was deception, and if that was total misleading to everyone, then surely the powers that be, shall we say, if we want to look at that way, they could basically then do much more, and even more still. And that is what I think has happened. And it's basically that everything is in total reverse of how it was meant to be and should be, and how normal human beings would want it to be, and is natural for them to be that way. Human beings also have now, not all human beings, but a large amount of us have started to think so logically and so practically, and we're almost driven into that by the society we live in anyway. We're sort of forced into that money, work mentality, which we have to do to survive. So basically we're living at a survival level, we're thinking that way, and therefore we become extremely materialistic, extremely money, etc., etc. And so we basically have ceased to be remotely, I'm looking for the word spiritual in a way, but really by that I just mean that we still think in terms of a little bit of caring, a little bit of knowing what's right and wrong, and questioning that always, instead of just like we tend to do now, where we obey authority and we just tend to go along with what we're told, and we don't question it most of the time. We believe it, even though if we were really using all the abilities that we have, we would question it. We would say, hey, no, this is not really how we're meant to live. We're not meant to live in a closed, security-driven, fear-driven society which also creates then, the fear creates mistrust against your fellow human beings, and it's all a setup. It's all, like I say, it is the title of the video, Satan Rules This World, and he's the master of all lies. And basically, even though I'm not going to use it religiously or that in that context, but that is how our world actually operates, whether you're religious or not. That is how it's operating. It's as though the people who are running everything way up top, because it goes a lot beyond governments, you can blame them. We think that we are in control of everything because we vote the governments and the governments are there, but the governments themselves are not controlling everything. They're controlled by other beings, shall we say, and that goes further and further up. What I'm trying to say, and this is going to sound probably insane to a lot of people, and if you think it's insane, that's okay, because 12 months ago I would have thought it was insane too, and I still think it's insane, but I know it to be more of a reality, unfortunately. And I say unfortunately because to me it's, I'm talking now about it, but I could basically spend all day crying because it's a tragedy that human beings are living this way when they are meant to be so much more, I believe. And I know that now because I always thought that we were very much a victim of circumstances, that even in the big scheme of things we were just little things, we did not mean anything. I do not believe that now because I think that we would not have the powers that be, shall we say, trying to keep us down if we were not worthwhile, if we were so small and so pathetical, like we're sort of half told, even though we also then have this ego thing going as well, which is kind of a contradiction, but that's a bit false in a way, because we then think that our world is, how we dress and how we present ourselves in a superficial way. And whilst that can be quite nice for some people, it is just a falsity there. It's because we focus on that instead of realising that we're really being controlled, because we think that we are then, like we basically think we're free, and we're not. But while we think we're free, then we never will be, because we don't know that we're in this prison. We think because we can walk around, we can't see the surveillance and stuff. We don't know that we're being watched and that we're being manipulated by everything from the media. It's a mass manipulation, everything. And the worst of it is that 95% of it, 90 probably more than that percentage, is a total lie. They have to throw in a few truths, otherwise we'd wake up. They have to throw in a few little truths in amongst the bigger lies. And it's a bit like if someone gets caught out doing something wrong, then they have to then pretend that, they're going to write it in a big way, and but everything, like I say, is a deception. And that is the hardest thing for me to have accepted, because it basically means that your whole life has been a lie. And that's extremely hard for all of us to deal with and to accept. Like I say, it's almost to where you wouldn't want to be here anymore, because you like everything that you've ever known. And you wonder where to start. You wonder, like, what do I make of everything now? Like, where is the truth? There is truth there, but the truth is not pretty, so that's another thing. But on the other hand, if you can realise that, and realise that you've been put down and reduced to nothing because you are special and do have more abilities than what you think. We're in the world where we think our computer knows more. And I'm using the mobile phone for the first time with this video, by the way, because I'm not particularly tech, and I have used it a lot in the past and even been addicted to it at one point, but, for trivial stuff. And then when you think that you need information, you go to that as though it's a library, and it's a library of lies. So how can you really survive in this world or bring yourself up when you're surrounded by all that? It's so incredible to have to accept. It's like I say, it would be quite distressing, except that I think that there must be many of you out there, if you did realise it like me, and if you were younger than me, to where you say, hey, I don't want to opt out of this life because of it, even though you feel like it, because you're like, hey, if everything's a lie and everything almost looks hopeless in a way, then you're going to say, oh, I can't deal with this. And particularly if you are targeted, too, that will make it to where it will become very impossible. Whereas if you're still under the half delusion that you have some freedoms, but or even if you know that, but you can still, you don't feel that you're particularly being harassed incredibly, you might be able to then plod on, shall we say, but if you can start from scratch and say everything is false, but the reason everything is a lie and why we're not allowed to know the truth and cannot live the way we're meant to live in harmony with one another, and certainly not, I've been alone most of my life, but I still try not to hate other human beings even when I see them doing wrong things, because I've done lots of wrong things myself too, because basically I'll have to get into that in other videos, because this whole thing is incredibly deep. Like, once I started looking into it because I had to, what I thought was simple problems, simple solutions, and simple, basic situations went from, being very simple into extremely complicated and even otherworldly, shall we say, which I've always lived very much in this 3D, real, solid world. What I could see was all, and that goes for the fact that, we don't see most of what's going behind the scenes anyway, even in our real world, even if we deal in this practical world. Even in this practical world, there is extreme deception. If you want to take it further, then you're looking at probably much more, but just in this real world, because I think that, because myself, I believe that human beings, and I say human beings, we all live on this planet, but some people are less human than others, and by that I mean that they have lost their humanity, and I had too for years and years, where you are driven into this material world where it's dog eat dog, everyone's against you, you feel fearful, you only trust a few people, and you have bad relationships. You look at everything negatively instead of realising what you really are. And even I have still not got spiritually or mentally awake enough to realise that full potential. I'm still looking, and because I've got so much pressure on me, I'm finding that I can't meditate or actually get in contact with, how shall I say, my true self in a way. I can't do that because of circumstances. I was on the road to doing that when circumstances pushed me back down, but because of that, it made me wonder why, and it made me look into everything. I was forced to, because I'm like, why is this going on? And before, I had just accepted some things as bad luck, because I'd always had a lot of bad luck, which isn't really bad luck. It is actually, like I say, everything is in reverse, everything is a lie, everything is trickery, everything is deception, and everything is planned. And nothing happens by accident. That's another thing, which is mind-blowing, because it means that you feel that you do not have hardly any control over your own life or your own destiny, which is kind of true, unfortunately, because that's not how it's meant to be, but that is how we have led it, because once you let, and I'm saying the powers that be, because I mean once you let others take over, particularly if they're actually running things and controlling your world and your environment, once that happens, you have no control, and basically we do not have any control. We're given choices, but even the choices are tricks. Even the choices that we're given are tricks. They're so that we think we're making our own choices, that we think we're free, whereas in reality they give you those things, give you the choices. Even shall we say, if something bad situation happens, like the things you see all over the world, then it's like, oh, you've got to do something, we're frightened. So you let the powers that be then come in and take more of your freedom from you, because you think that is going to keep you safe, whereas in reality it's making you less safe, because it means they're taking your freedom, so you're getting trapped. Every day you're getting more and more trapped, to where if it suits the powers that be one day, they could literally just get rid of once you give any person total power over you, then your fate is in their hands. And when they turn on you, particularly if they don't like you all along, and they've been lying, and everything is a lie and everything is a deception, like I say, you have to take it from the pinpoint. Once you start to see the lies and the deception and the tricks and the illusion that they present with so many things in this world, then you have to say, if you trust that, you're setting yourself up to be totally controlled, totally manipulated, and essentially you're at the mercy of them. And as they clearly don't like you anyway, because they've set up all this lies and all this deception stuff, that really means that they are not really interested in your well-being, so they are setting you up for your downfall. And if you allow them to take your freedoms from you, you've chose to put yourself in that position to where they can do that when it suits them, when the time is right. And that's how I see it, and I can see that I've pieced together a lot of pieces of the puzzle. None of it's information from every source that I could possibly find, and only if I could see a reality in it myself, and only if I could see that it fitted what I'd experienced and what I see around me. What I see around me with my own eyes. You can call me crazy, but you can check it out for yourself if I make more videos and get into the real reality, not just this concept where I say everything is false and a lie and deception, and we're all being led down from the light into the dark in a way, even in every area of our life. That's but I will show practical little things to where you'll sort of say, hey, well, that's right, if there's fluoride in the water and fluoride's really a poison, why are they doing that? They say it's for teeth, but isn't it more important to actually survive and live than to have a few good teeth? And either way, we can use fluoride toothpaste if we're really worried about fluoride. And quite frankly, I think people's teeth are just as well using totally non-fluoride products. Probably healthier, just as effective, and there again, if they didn't pump you with so many lollies and sugary things, that wouldn't happen so much anyway if we ate the natural, correct diet instead of the I do it myself. I've lived that way, and my mouth is full of bloody mercury and stuff, which no doubt is why I have been kept in the dark for 60 years with all the things that they do to us to dumb us down, to keep us to where we do not even care about what's going on, as long as we're getting by in our own little space. Like I was living a pathetic little life in my own little space, but I'm like, hey, I've got by another day, that's great. I've struggled through another day, I've survived another day, that's how we get, and so that's the thing. But anyway, I'm rambling, and I hope that I'm not losing you, so I probably am, and it doesn't matter if you don't, because I would not believe most of this stuff myself. 12 months ago, I would have laughed at this sort of thing, and I'd said, I wouldn't even watch that crazy person on the video, and I would would not have even looked at myself at all. Not that I particularly want to anyway, but and I don't even want to be doing this. I don't even want to be doing it, and I think it's probably futile in a way, but something is forcing me to do it. So even if one person just hears it and gets a little, even if one person just hears it and checks something out, and actually, like says to themselves, oh yeah, the fluoride is probably a poison. Why have we had fluoride in our water all along for years and years and years? And it costs them a lot of money to do all these things, by the way, too, with, like most people would say, oh, the governments probably lie and they do this and they trick and they don't really care about us. And then when they put fluoride in the water, we say, oh yeah, they care about us. They're putting poison in our water because they love us, because they care that we have good teeth, that sort of thing, some rubbish like that, I mean, even I went along with that for years. I thought, oh good, the fluoride in the water. I used to drink so much water, and I still do, because quite frankly, I think my time is very limited on this planet, and although I always lived my whole life being absolutely terrified of death, and I have too, that's why I've always struggled on, because of the fear of the opposite. But now I'm starting to learn that things, even in that, is a mass deception, and I will, perhaps, if I make some more videos, get to this, because all these things, they're not simple things. This is like going from knowing nothing to knowing quite a lot, and I still don't know it all. I'm still looking for things, but what I have discovered is, beyond what I would have thought was remotely possible at all. But like I was saying too, everything in this world is in reverse. Everything. So that really means that, which is kind of bizarre, it really means that the people who are at the top shouldn't really be there, because some of them are actually quite intelligent, but they're not chosen because they're intelligent. Even our scientists and all the people at the top, they're chosen only if they've got abilities, but only if they will go along with the fake world, the deception, and do things the way they're told to do things. Any free thinkers, or anyone that's really looking for the truth, will not be in any position of power, any position of discovery, any position of advancement in any way. They might let a few through. That will only be if they're giving you something that actually appears to be advanced, but is actually something that they want you to have anyway, like the mobile phone or like the computers, and even they are not really as advanced as what I'm sure, the powers that be would really have anyway, because, Dolly the sheep was cloned a long, long time ago, and to say that they wouldn't have cloned more since then is ludicrous, because they wouldn't be able to help themselves. People, once they get obsessed and that's their field of work, they have to go forward. They can't stop themselves. They can't say this is not a good idea. That's why we're in the mess we're in, because basically everything is allowed to go. Nothing is held back. But the trouble is that we act. I would have to go into more. I don't want to go into the fact that there is a lot more behind the scenes, a lot more advancement behind the scenes than what we see, that we're given the least of what is available. We're given the least technology, we're given the least medical research, we're given the least scientific knowledge. In fact, we're basically only given stuff that does not benefit us at all, and most of it, like I say, was in reverse, a lie, a deception, mass stuff. But I'd need 100 videos to go into all the different specific areas, and even I would only know a small amount of those myself, because I'm not an educated person. I left school when I was 15, but actually I don't regret that now. I did regret it at the time, but I don't now, because if everything you learn at school is a lie and just a load of rubbish, which it is, then you actually haven't lost that much. In fact, I don't think if I had children that I'd be sending them to school at all, but of course they'll make you send them to school anyway, that's the thing, so they can be indoctrinated with all the false information, false illusion about our world, etc. But what I was trying to say about the human being, shall we say, and I'm no expert on this, but I think that human beings originally had a whole mind. One side was full of compassion and love and the more spiritual, finer things. And the other side is the practical, logical thinking. It's intelligent, but it has no kind of no empathy, no that. And that is, I think that human beings have been tricked gradually, year after year, into losing that other side of the brain and believing that the computer-generated practical side, thinking, intelligent side is all that we need and that's all there is. And we have been tricked into that. And that creates a world that we have always had, because this is how we have been led down that path. A world of animosity, of wars, of suspicion, of hate, and of not trusting the fellow human beings. And while we do that, then the powers that be have control over us, because we're not united down here. We're not united in this world. We're suspicious of one another. We're watching one another instead of watching the ones that are controlling us and tricking us and turning us against one another, when we need to be united in order to survive. Even if you have lost this empathy side of the brain, which a lot of us have, and I was without it for years too, and even now I'm struggling to get a lot of it back. I really am. In fact, if I didn't realise how we've been tricked so much and how sad it is, I probably wouldn't have it either. But I'm almost like seeing myself and everyone else now as a defenceless animal, because that's what we are. We've become that, and we think, and while we think that we've got control and that we're all important, we're living a delusion, and we'll be even more tricked and more controlled. So we have to, unfortunately, accept that we have no real control over our world at the moment, that we have been tricked, that we are not free in any sense of the word. We just have an illusion of freedom, and that's part of the deception, so that we don't wake up and don't take back our world, because it really is not meant to be like this. We're not meant to be living like this. We're not meant to be working, slaving away all the time. We probably shouldn't even be using money. All these things are inventions of the powers that be, I believe, to control us. We own this world, us human beings. But like I'm trying to say, though, is a lot of human beings even have become less human. So as you go further towards the top, to the important people in this world, the influential people, even to your celebrities, these people are all mind-controlled and controlled by further up. They're all operating under certain agendas. They're told what to present. They present a lot of that they trick you into thinking they're good people, and then they are also presenting violent themes. And, they're basically a contradiction, because, I don't like to mention names, but you will see some celebrities how 1 minute they'll be going and putting their money into something good, supposedly. There again, as I say, everything's a lie, so what it appears to be probably isn't really that good anyway. But even by that, they're doing these false good things, which they're told to do, because they are not doing anything on their own. No one is. Even your music industries, your entertainment industries, your acting, none of these people do anything on their own. And when they do, they get into trouble. And sometimes they even get taken from this world, shall we say, because of deciding that they can say something against, how shall we say, the people that they work for. I mean, they sign that contract. They do that. That's true. They sign it, and so then they're stuck with that, and they can't try to, they're going to be in trouble. And that's their choice, because they want the fame, they want the money, they want to be able to do the things that they were meant to do. If you're a singer, you want to sing. If you're an artist, you want to paint. If you're an actor, you want to act. If you're a dancer, you want to dance. If you're whatever field you want to be. If you're a scientist, you want to be a scientist. So you will be bored, and you will, because that is what you want to do, and so you will sign that contract. But unfortunately, it's not. It's like I say, this world is very much, it's a total control world. It's not the world that we see where we think these people are lucky. Even the people that we envy, people that I've envied for a lifetime and thought, oh dear, my life is shit, theirs is so great. And they do have a lot of luxury and a lot of money given to them, but they are totally under control. That's why they have to project images and things to trick and to keep us thinking that they're okay, but at the same time we are being manipulated by them. We are being conditioned to a lot of violence, and particularly in today's stuff I see, but I think it's always been a little bit the case. It's like they influence us. They tell us what's right and wrong in a way. And because if you start to watch these people, follow them, listen to the music goes in your head, goes into your subconscious, so you're not even free thinking. It's all mind control. We're not free in any way. We're not free in the physical sense, even though we think we are, because we could be, how should I say, with all the surveillance now, with the World Wide Web and the towers and everything that is around us, we have set ourselves up, basically. And I have noticed it over the years. Even before I woke up, I didn't like it. I didn't worry about it, but I didn't like it. I said, why is more going up everywhere? And I would say it sometimes to people, and they would say, oh, that's no big deal. That's just for the traffic, or that's just for this, or that's just security. That's for our good. That's for safety. And I'm well, I'd rather be free. I don't need to have people watching or checking everything. I don't want to walk past and know there's a camera following me everywhere down the street. And people, and of course nowadays people are watching one another anyway. We have our neighbourhood watch, we have all our little clubs and our little churches and things where people think they're doing the right thing. Actually, they're watching, instead of watching the bad guys, the setup in this society is that the bad guys get the good guys to watch and control the other good guys. And they think that the good guys are the bad guys, whereas it's really the controllers that are the bad guys. But they've got a great setup. They're extremely smart. And they've tricked us, like I say, everything is a lie, everything is in reverse. All information from... It's a terrible, terrible thing, but I have found that everything is a deception from not just the biggest things, but even down to the smallest things. But I can't go into that until another video, because it will sound too bizarre, because it actually is quite bizarre. It's unbelievable. It's worrying in the extreme, but if it is real, it's a bit like saying if the fairies are real, there's no point in pretending they ain't. And if they're bad fairies, you really don't have a chance. You can't see them, but they're there. And I know that's just a thing. That would be a bit like, we do have other dimensions. Even science, as lying as what a lot of it is. It's not just even that science lies, but it's also what we're presented with is extremely backward. It's not just that a lot of it is actually false, and of course some of it is even proved to be false too. That there is a lot that has been proved to be false, which even I thought, oh, who cares? And I thought, oh, that's rubbish, it doesn't matter. But all these things do matter, because if they fake one thing, that means they could fake another, and then they fake another, and basically in the end you're looking at, that's right, everything being fake, and you're only presented with little bits of truth to make it seem real. And even those truths are usually things that are extremely backward. Whatever knowledge we get, if we find a cure for cancer tomorrow, you can be sure there'll be some other disease that will hit human beings. Human beings will never be free. In their natural state, they should be disease and illness free. That's where they've been manipulated and deteriorated We think we're going forward, but in reality, I believe we've gone completely backwards. I believe I don't like to say the word believe, but I don't even like to say I know because, I can't prove it 100% certainly in a video, and it sounds terribly arrogant probably to some people because that's how people interpret everything nowadays too, when you're really just trying to say, hey, we're special. We're a lot more special than we are. We don't need artificial intelligence and all this other rubbish. Deception, should I say, really, that is all being fed to us to where we think we need to be more intelligent, but we're not intelligent. Yeah, we need artificial intelligence. We need compute. We need all this. We don't. That is a trick. We have been made less than what we are. And we believe it too because we have been made less. That is the truth. We have not. We think that we have improved intellectually and gone forward, but in reality, with our the things that we dismiss now, the empathy, the love, the compassion, the emotions, which some people see even as as a disadvantage. I certainly have found my emotions to be a hindrance at times. I thought, hey, I wish I was more like a robot to where I didn't get so upset by certain things. Even before this, years ago. But now I realise that is the deception. Those things were our superior points. Those were the things that elevated us to the higher thinking, to where we knew more. That's the strange thing. We need to have the whole mind. We cannot operate just where we're only using the logic and the intellectual side of the brain. If we do, then we are operating, yes, like a robot, like a computer, and we will then be manipulated and controlled. And we are not meant to be that way. Human beings, I believe, were very superior beings, originally. I believe they were very superior. And even some of the races that exist, the ones that have been put down, like I say, everything is in reverse. So I don't want to sound forceful, but it makes me so upset and so angry, but everything is in reverse. So that means that a lot of the races that we've put down, and that even white people have turned against others, they have been tricked too, that the races that we've turned against are the superior races, that we're wiped out, just like we wipe out all the animals, extinction law. This is not how we are meant to be, and we have not done it with our own full mind, but we have been tricked, and gradually to where, due to environmental things which they have put onto us, to where they make us distressed all the time, fighting for survival, always anxious, always in a low vibration, what they talk about, which I didn't even know there was such a thing, but basically everything is that, evidently. And basically we're kept in not a very high vibrational state, to where we're not, how should I say, really happy, really at peace. We're not. We never are. And so while we're in that state, then we do things. It's easy for them to manipulate us to do bad things, which goes against what human beings are. In their superior state, which they originally would have been in a long, long time ago. So I'm saying that we've all deteriorated. I know I've deteriorated. I know even over my lifetime. Probably when I was very, very young, I was probably in a better, freer emotional state than what I would have been as I got older. But even though I've had a lot of environmental things against me, just like everyone else, even when I lost my faith in human beings, I still hung on to a little bit of love for animals and stuff like that, because I saw them as innocent. I couldn't see bad in them. And sometimes even if you just hang on to a little bit, it stops you from going down the total animosity, hate direction, totally. And but now I realise it's wrong with human beings completely, because you can't hate. We can't hate one another when we've all been deceived, when we're all living in this total deception. How can you? It's ridiculous that we would. But like I was saying, we have destroyed some of the better races, the people who knew more, who were at a higher level. And these were the ones that we would call primitive, because that's what I say, everything is in reverse. The people at the top, the people that we think are the civilized, the intellects, they're the lesser beings. The ones in our society that are often down the bottom, they're the ones that they're put there because they don't want them up the top, because they would make the world a better place. That's how I see it now. You only get to the top in this world if you are prepared to go along with the powers that be, completely do what they tell you, their agendas, their way of thinking. Dare I say, even if you're in fields where you're supposed to be open-minded and supposed to be free to make discoveries and inventions and all this stuff, very few of those people will be allowed full reign or be supported if they are a certain type of person, a free person, a person who cares about humanity and wants to do everything. In fact, those sort of people will only be allowed to even make it, provided they can keep them in the deception that they think they're doing good while they're being manipulated for bad. A bit like, dare I say, there's lots of people who've made inventions in the past where I've seen a few on the TV where they've made inventions for the good of humanity that was meant to improve humanity and help humanity, and after they've died, they've been used for war. So this is how our world operates. So even people that have good intentions often they'll be watched, and they will not be allowed to use even good inventions to save the whole of humanity. They won't be allowed to. It's not how this whole system works until people wake up to that completely. The system will continue, the whole setup will continue, and it will go further. It won't get better, because the agenda is not for human beings to progress or get better. The aim is for human beings to get less intelligent, be more controlled, and eventually be totally subdued and totally under mind control by computers, artificial intelligence, whatever. I'm only speculating on the ways because they already have humanity under mass control, mind control by the control of the media. And because if everything you see and hear is a lie, how could you possibly do the right thing? You couldn't, because you've been giving false information. You know, if you're told that someone is attacking this or doing this, or someone's bad or someone's this or that, how can you possibly do the right thing? Because you would be attacking the good guys. If you're told the good guys are bad, then you're going to be attacking the good guys. So you can't make the right choice. You can't do that because you're given false information and you believe it, because you have to believe it, because it's all you've got. It's all you're given. You'd have to say, hey, goodness gracious, does that mean that everything that I've trusted my whole life is not really here for my own good? And my answer to that is, unfortunately, yes. Nothing that you have trusted is really there for your own good. Every single institution, every single thing appears to be, but it's not what it's really supposed to be. You know, if you get sick, you go to the doctor, but if the doctor's got a lot of false information and hasn't got the total solutions to everything and only got like money-making quick fixes, or should I say, not even proper fixes most of the time. They're not even fixes, they're just things to, it's a bit like taking a painkiller when you've got a pain, isn't it? You know, you're not curing the cause, you're just making your life more comfortable. And that's what they want. They just want you to have a short life and make it a bit more comfortable, but not for you to be totally free, totally healthy, totally living to, you know, huge amounts of years like human beings were supposed to. And even that, I believe, they say that we've extended our lifetime, whereas in reality we have not extended our lifetime. It's got less and less and less. And then when human beings start to get wise and start to go a bit natural and do start to use a few bits of truthful information and extend their life, say from 70 to 80, then new diseases and things will come in that will cause human beings to go even further less. And I believe that and don't forget, if everything is a lie and everything is a deception, you can't believe statistics either. If they tell you everyone's living to 100, but you see everyone around you dropping like flies and being sick, are you silly enough to believe that fake statistics? Because everything is a lie, everything is a deception, nothing is real, nothing is what it appears to be. But also, getting back to this human thing of how the real human beings are probably right at the bottom, and by that I mean where they've got more humanity still in them. And I'm not saying there aren't some people that are in other, even in different fields and things, that don't have it, but they're not going to be allowed to take over. They're not really going to be allowed to do too much unless it suits the agenda. But it will never be for the benefit of human beings. Never. Because it just won't be allowed. That's the setup we have, because we are under total control. That's unfortunately the truth. So, if you can, lots of people could point to me, lots of things they could say, oh, so-and-so's did this and that, and I say, yeah, well, that looks good. But in reality, if that's allowed, it's only because it suits the agenda. Maybe if they think we're starting to wake up, they'll show us something where we think, oh, yeah, it is real. Because they're very clever. They're not going to... Human beings even are still very clever, much cleverer than they are cleverer than the powers that be, but because of the deception they've been made, they're in the dark, so their cleverness is useless to them, even the cleverness, because the others are very clever too, but they have all the knowledge, all the information, and all the power, and all the technology, everything you can imagine that we can't even imagine, to be honest. Even I'm aware of that. Maybe in other videos I might speculate on some of that sort of stuff. But as you go further towards the top in our society, people become less human, to where the people that are controlling things, the human beings, you'd call them humans because they look like human beings, but they actually do not have any humanity left in them. They are like psychopaths. They are more interested in destruction, control of humanity than seeing them thrive and seeing them in their natural state where they're happy and free and using all their abilities and got their whole mind to where they are a superior being. I don't know how many human beings there would be that are on this planet at the moment that would be in that state to where they're at their most superior. I mean, we've all got egos to where we think we're good, but I don't think there would be too many. Some have more than others, I would think, but it's got quite... And even they, like I say, we've been, over the years, every year, every 100 years, however long we've been here, I believe we started out very superior beings, with very superior abilities. And I believe they have been manipulated and taken from us gradually over the years, to where we now think that, yes, we should be dependent on a computer or an artificial intelligence, because we actually think we're not that smart, because we can't see the truth, because our abilities have been taken from us. Even I am struggling to find the truth, struggling every day. It's like I'm piecing it together with half a brain, because I know I should be able to see more. I know that my abilities are suppressed. Most people don't think those abilities even exist. I'm like, the little abilities that we have should be much faster. Even when you hear about people being psychic, or shall I say, to where they can see things and read things that maybe another person might miss. That ability is so small in comparison to even what it should be, and yet we would probably be impressed if we spoke to that person. But in reality, even theirs has been pushed right down because, without sounding too bizarre, I'm sure that if we go back enough into history, certainly when humans first started, I believe we had vast abilities. We could probably operate by telepathy and things like this. I believe that's quite likely, and that could just have been one little thing. So we wouldn't have even needed a mobile phone because we would have just been able to operate one mind to another. And if I find out more information as I'm going along, because I'm really trying to find the truth for myself and for anyone else, and every person will have to look for their own truth. I mean, every person has to look at themselves and try to even just look into more things. There is actually truth all around us, but we basically have been conditioned, programmed, shall we say, to actually think that what is the truth is a lie, and everything else that is a lie and a deception is the truth. That is how this world works. So when I watch an X-Files or something like that, which I haven't actually watched a lot, but I've seen a few little things in it, it's quite likely that we look at that and we say, that's fantasy. Whereas in reality, a lot of the stuff we're seeing in movies and different things is actually not a fantasy, not a science fiction for the future, but a reality that actually exists now, but it's kept from us. We do not see it. So they've tricked us because they seem to, for what I can see, this world does have truth, the truth hidden in plain sight. That is so true. Everything is hidden, but it is actually in plain sight, but most of us can't see it because it's right in front of us. And we think when we see it right in front of us that it's false, that it's the fantasy, it's the science fiction. It's a bit like when we might listen to some, I've heard some people say, like myself, like I would come across as a total nut wacko, if I say all this stuff, and I don't blame people for thinking that because I would have thought it myself only 12 months ago. Wouldn't even watch it. Say, that's just a bit too far-fetched, that's silly. And it's the same when you watch all your TV shows, when they show all the more strange stuff. We think that's not a possibility, or at least if it is a possibility, it'd be 1,000 years in the future. Whereas it's probably much more likely, because it seems to me they show a lot of truth while we think it's a lie, while we think that is not the truth. So they actually show it to us. A lot of stuff is shown to us. It's even there around us a lot of the time. So for some reason, they're not allowed to just totally keep everything from us either. But they've tricked us so much that they can actually put the truth to us and we dismiss it as a lie, and all the lies and deception we believe to be reality and the truth. That is the master deception, and that is the world we live in, and it's mind-boggling. It's disturbing. It would even be depressing if you didn't sort of say, well, hey, at least the one thing I would hope that everyone would take from it is that bear in mind that you were once probably a really superior being that had the potential to evolve into something that may well have been the very best of everything, the very much more superior than the controlling things that have technology but do not have any real wisdom or any real compassion or any of the finer spirit. There's no spirituality or spirit, or any of that thing would be totally dismissed by the controlling powers. Because, like I say, even at the human level, the human beings that go further up, they put on a false front of pretending to care about us and stuff like that. They do. And they say the right words, but underneath it all they're cold and heartless, and hateful, and only care about themselves and them. Like I say, even the people that we admire, a lot of the people that I would have watched for years in the entertainment industry, they have been driven the same way because they want to make their money and do their thing. They may even start out, they may even get tricked, some of them, to be quite frank. They get trapped too, because once they go into that, they can't get out, so they have to keep doing it. And it's the same if you had a job on TV. If you decided, I'm not going to read this lying news, or I'm not going to promote this false product, or I'm not going to talk about this subject knowing that it's a bad agenda, you're out of a job. You're on the street, you're sitting in the gutter. So a lot of them, even they're like, hey, I've got to go with the flow, I've got to go with even the deception. And even they would not know how big the deception is. They would probably think it's a small deception. They probably think, oh, it's wrong, but it's not going to change the world. Whereas in reality, it has changed the world. It is the world, and it's ruined the world. And it's destruction for mankind, even for them. But they're living in the moment, so they can't see it. They're like, oh, well, I'm getting a bit of money, I'm doing all right. So they can't see that they're being tricked and that they'll be finished too. Even some of the people that are at the top will not, may not even have the future as well wrapped up as what they think either. I can't speak on that because I don't know, but I have some ideas, but I'm not going to go into that because it's too complicated and it's beyond the real. It's beyond it's a little bit beyond the human realm that we actually kind of are seeing. I'm trying to keep into a little bit of the practical side of it, because otherwise, if you start talking, because because see, I started out with only a little bit of information, and I sort of gradually added it. And so if I sort of said to you, the top bit of information, instead of starting at the bottom like I did, you'd be like, I would have done even a year ago. If you'd have said the top stuff, I'd have said, oh, that's ridiculous. Whereas if you start at little and start seeing the untruths and the deception in the little ways around you, and you start to question everything, then you might be able to just gradually piece some of it together, and particularly if you go looking for it. See, I did go looking for it. I had to because basically I was under such threat. Whereas if I hadn't have been, I probably would have just stayed in the dark. And if they zapped me or a bomb dropped on this, I wouldn't have known any different, and like, strangely enough, that, don't know, now knowing that there is a lot more even to the life sort of thing, and even that I can't prove, it is more information, but it fits everything that is happening and what I see. So I say the pieces of the puzzle, if they fit, then it certainly appears to be true for me. That's how I've come to the conclusion. So I'm not just going to pick on a few fantasy theories and a few things I see around and say, oh, that seems as though it could be true. And I would even dismiss some things because it's easy to jump on when you've found out something to be true, to then take it further onto something that may not be true because you don't have the full proof of it by a long shot. So it's difficult. But like I say, as you go further up, human beings that actually control everything, the human beings, or the beings, I would not call them human, to be honest, because if they've totally lost their humanity, if they actually hate other human beings, look down upon them, and would actually prefer to get rid of them, that's really not a human being, even if they look like a human being, and that is what rules our world. Those beings actually do control all the important things in the world. They have control of our very existence. In fact, we almost can't exist without them, and yet they do not want us probably even in existence. They do not share with us all the things that are beneficial even at a health level, much less at a knowledge level, to where we could advance and gain back at least some of what has been taken from us. I believe the better races have been pushed down. Even see some of the old tribes, Aboriginals, American Indians. I don't even know a lot about this, but I believe these people were much more spiritually advanced. They may have lived at what we would consider a more primitive level, but actually that level was in accordance with the environment, with the earth, and with spiritual values. And they knew things that we did not know. And that's why they have been systematically controlled and brought down even lower than us and wiped out in some cases. Totally separated from their knowledge that they had, because I believe they knew things that we could not see. All the stuff that they talk about, the dream time of Aboriginals and things. I believe myself, not believe, but I don't believe, that's the wrong word. That is not a good word, believe, Eve. I do not like that word. The English language also is another bad thing for humans. It is now the universal language, and it is the most bad vibrational. Even the words themselves, like I'm using now to communicate, actually have a bad vibe. And that is why that language has been chosen to take over. It is the least beneficial language for humans to be communicating with, I believe. That's something I've just learned recently, and I think it's true on the evidence that I've looked into. Just like I say, just go onto YouTube, look at some videos on all these things. If you look hard enough, the truth is, there is truth there for you amongst this whole total deception. But you just have to look for it and question it too. Question what everything that you do get information about. It's very hard. It's extremely hard to think that if you wanted to know something a few years ago, you'd go to the library or the computer and think, I've got this problem, I'll look it up. There's at least information there for me, and there will probably be a solution even. And to think that so much of that is a deception, even if it's true, it's still a deception because it's not the best that we can have. It's a bit like, you've got a medical problem and they offer you a solution. And that solution appears to have some benefits. As you can see, some of the drivers also are in that. They're very angry these days. That's what I'm saying. It's not normal. It's not how human beings are meant to be. But yeah, you have this medical problem, and they will offer you a treatment or a solution, but it's not the best treatment or the solution. In fact, you shouldn't even have the problem. The problem has been created so that you have to seek this treatment, and even the treatment is not the best of what is available. It's less. It's to keep you going, to keep you being sick, or to just to get you to buy some pills or to have. But it is not what is even available, and you shouldn't even have any illness in the first place. I believe human beings in their original state should never have known what illness or sickness is. Mentally they would be free and superior. I can't even imagine, but I know that I feel I know that this is how they're meant to be. And this is why we have been gradually suppressed over centuries and centuries and centuries. Well, more than centuries really, but a lot more than centuries. But I think we're now heading to where we can actually see it, because I think in the past we believed so much that every time we did something wrong, like every time we fought a battle or something, that we were fighting it for freedom, for the benefit. And it is never right to kill. In fact, even even religious people should really know that if they believe in God, thou shalt not kill. It is never right to kill. You can never justify doing wrong things to other human beings, especially if you're told it by someone else that you shouldn't probably trust anyway. But even if you trust that person, even if you love them, even if you think that they know everything, you human beings should know in their heart, and in that, if their full mind was working, they would know not to do it. And they would know that the Creator, because if you believe in bad, you have to believe in good. Just like if you believe in Satan, then you have to believe in God or a creator. I say a creator, whoever has created things, okay? Because there has to have been some creation, I think. I know we talk about Big Bang and all this stuff, and that's also where we have been controlled and led to believe that everything is an accident and that there is no vast intelligence that has created all this. But for that, there has been an opposing bad thing that has took control of the good creator's work, mankind, which was like, I think, a good creator's work, where they were meant to evolve into something absolutely wonderful. Instead, they have been led into destruction, and they're almost heading towards total destruction now by trickery and deception and by their own mindset, because they have actually had so much of their original abilities taken from them by trauma and the world around them that has gradually, over thousands of years, brought them to where they're in a negative, less full mind, shall I say, perception or being. I can't quite explain it because I haven't got it either, but I know it's been lost. I feel I know it's been lost, and you see some of it still there, and it may even be possible for us, if we become aware and if we can change the world by being aware and becoming united with one another, even if it's only for survival, because at the moment we think we're uniting for survival, but we're doing wrong things for that survival, so instead we're destroying everything. We can't see that unless it is unison in compassion and kind of a love and an acceptance of every other human being, regardless of what they're doing. If everyone did that, it's a bit like they talk about anarchy. Anarchy is a bad thing because it means everyone just does what they like and there's chaos. But if everyone was actually in the right frame of mind and civilised, it would work. But because of the fact that 99% of people are not in a civilised full frame of mind, we've lost it all. It could never be possible or work because you have to have total trust in something like that. You have to love your fellow human being. You don't then need rules and regulations. You don't need institutions to control you. You don't need police. You don't need military. You don't need any of that because you trust and you know that you're living the right way, that you will not harm your fellow human being. I make a few mistakes because we're human. That's all the fun of it. I don't think that's a bad thing, even though I don't find any of this funny. But there again, too much judgment. Once you start to judge, you're already on that path, I think. And I've done that too. Once you do that, you're already on that path to where you put yourself in a kind of judgmental position to where you're condemning in a kind of way, and you're making, and you're not in the position to do that. And well, I think even Jesus said, he who is without sin cast the first stone. And I think that actually makes a bit of sense. But I think these days, and I think down through even since his time, everyone casts a stone. They would not stop even if Jesus was here right now and said, do not cast. They would do it because they can't help it. And I've been like that too. I can't help it. A lot of people have said to me, why are you judging that person? Years ago they'd say that, and even not that long ago. And I'd be there, I don't think I am. I think that's just right or wrong. But they say, no, but you're still judging them. They were right. I was, because I was still, even if they were doing the wrong thing, and I thought I was right by saying it, I was still judging. wasn't for me to do that. It was for me to make sure I don't do it, but, I could even tell them if I wanted to in a nice way, but to, I don't know, I'm not sure how you figure these things out, but yeah, I was judging, and I didn't realise that they were living in this control world and that they were manipulated to be that way, that was their trauma, their environment, the same as myself. And so I've experienced great hate of people at various times myself in the past. And I thought it was justified. And even now I could still think it was justified. But once I know that person has been manipulated to be bad and to do all the wrong things and controlled that way and manoeuvred that way and traumatised that way, then I have to say, hey, it was bad what they did because they ruined my life, and they still could be some people by that same control. But they themselves are not in full control because they're reacting to what their environment is being shoved onto them. If there are guilty ones, it's the controllers right at the top, the people, because the people who control things, the human beings or the beings who control things, they have made quite a lot of the population like themselves in the same mindset, to where they are losing more and more of their humanity. And that suits them because that means they're more controllable. They put them in the same mindset. Instead of human beings evolving to the beings that they were supposed to be, which is the complete reverse of what these beings are. They have evolved. It's a bit like saying, instead of evolving to a Jesus kind of way of, I'm talking about a real Jesus, if you take only the good stuff that he tried to say and do. I'm not talking about a lot of the stuff that's in the Bible, because there's so much bad stuff in there that I think is more of a history rather than actually what we're supposed to take literally. If there's a good God, that's right. This is where atheisms and people turn atheists and cynical, because, and I don't blame them, because if they look at the Bible and the different things, they say, hey, this is supposed to be an all good God, so why is there so much bad stuff there? Why is there so much even? And I think this is trickery too, because that's right, if there is good, it should be all good, and if there's the opposing bad, it should be all bad. But I believe the bad has infiltrated even into the Bible and even into the churches, to where the good people are actually being controlled more by Satan than by any Jesus type of vibe, or the way Jesus would have said you're supposed to live and supposed to think and supposed to be and supposed to elevate your mind. They're going, but they don't know that. They're tricked too. Like I say, everything is a trick. Everything is this is what I now do. I just say everything, whatever I see, in everything, it is the opposite. It's all in reverse. So even in the churches, good people go into church and they think, I'm praying to Jesus. Jesus was good. But if they're listening to half the stuff they're listening to, they're actually being manipulated more by this Satan type thing. And I don't like to go into religion too much, but it's a good example of what the whole world is. And it could well be that the powers that be do, they might come with a cross in front of you on their neck and say, I believe in God and I believe in Jesus. But the God they believe in is not the Jesus that people think they're talking about at all. They're not worshipping that God at all. They're worshipping the opposite to everything that is good and humane and caring about humanity. And they're promoting it subconsciously into people in the world that we live in, because that's why we're living in this kind of very selfish, hateful, negative world. And I know that sounds awful, but I'm not saying there aren't people that do care and there's good people there. There are, but even they are being a lot tricked by what's around them and forced to go along with so much stuff, because They may not even see it either, just like I say, because I wouldn't see it until you accept that everything is false and everything is wrong. There's very little, but you've got to still look for the good. I mean, you have got to try to still look for the little bit of good and try to find the good people and stuff. But if you're looking at institutions, anything that makes money, anything that is out there in this real world, any like I say, any sort of institution of any sort, whether it be a church, a lodge, a club, any sort, you can be sure that if it's promoting something, that they are probably acting under deception, even if the people who are in them are good people. They will still be being tricked into some sort of deception. And because they are in that institution where they think it is good and where they think they can trust, they will go along with it. It's very important that people do think totally for themselves, even if they trust their local community, their local things, because they will be under deception just as heavily as the whole world. In fact, that's how it starts. It all starts very local. That's how they do it. You know, because most people are only living in their little communities, in their own little space. Most people are not actually living in the whole world, even though we do have the World Wide Web and everyone is aware of these days a lot more of the things going on. But they're still actually living in their little communities, and those communities are very tricked. That's how the deception starts. I know that from my own experience. You know, I mean, if you believe in, you know, I'm going to talk religious, even though I don't like to, but there's good examples in religion that I think Jesus, and I've not read the whole Bible, but I think Jesus made some point, or there's some point in the Bible where when Satan comes, you know, Satan is basically lies. When Satan comes, he will not come with horns and a pitchfork and looking like a red, you know, horrible being. He will come in a seductive form. You will be tricked. You will be deceived. Satan is the master of all lies. The controllers of this world is controlled by Satan. Satan mentality. Satan. It's quite possible even the literal worship of it, but I'm not going to go into that. But either way, it's all a deception and all a lie. And so when Satan comes, and he already is here, it's already here, you will not know it, because, as Jesus said, it will be where you will think it is something really good. In other words, what will be deceiving you will be someone or something that you trust, something that you like, something you admire, something you think is good, but it will be a mass deception, because everything is that. And even Jesus said that. So I think people, even if they're religious and they're in the church, they need to be very aware of that. They need to start saying, hey, that's what he said. So if I'm too beguiled by, or too thinking this thing is too good, and I'm following it, and I'm obeying without question, perhaps I need to stop and say, hey, does it really fit? Like, should I look into this more? Are my actions really what Jesus would want me to be doing? Because that's right, you could well be following the opposite to Jesus. So instead of thinking you're sitting in the church and you're going to get some sort of eternal life and that you're doing the right thing, you're actually doing the opposite, because if Satan is in that church even, and he is deceiving you, and you think that he's the good guy there, it's not even your fault, because I think this could happen, but I think that's what Jesus was saying, be careful of this. So if you're not going to be careful, if you're just going to blindly follow, particularly if you're following a group or something, and you're going to do things that you should, that if you had your full mind, you'd say, hey, no, I shouldn't do this. It'd be a bit like saying, oh, look, I don't know, I'm trying to find an example, but because I'm not no genius, let's face it, it'd be like if you're in the church and the minister says, oh, we need to be careful to watch out for bad people and stuff like that. Well, see, automatically, he's doing something that Jesus would probably not have said. He's automatically, or if he pinpoints certain things and says, oh, we should watch out for this or that, you have to say, like, this is not love. It's not going the Jesus line. He is through without sin to cast the first stone. It's like, but all I'm saying is you've got to think and you've got to say, what is everything even in my Bible totally what Jesus could have or would have said or would he have done? Because the Bible itself is not, it certainly was not, I believe, I heard that Jesus actually spoke in the strange way that he spoke so that people couldn't twist some of the things that he said, because he knew that Satan would be taking over this world and twisting his words and using even his good for evil to destroy man. And this is what has happened, and he was aware of this, so he tried to talk more, not so directly, so that they couldn't twist his words so much, so you'd have to think more and try to see the truth. I think that's just what I'm, surmising out of that, because, like I say, I haven't looked into all these things, but I believe there's some good even in the religion and in particular teachers, because I think that some of these people were really, once you start going into Son of God and all these things, I think that confuses it. These people were teachers. They were trying to teach humans. They did have a spirit, I think, that was part of God, obviously, or part of a higher good thing. Because I think man was created originally with so many abilities, and essentially he was all good. He was all, I think, all love, all compassion, and had no fear that way. It was like he was free. But that was all taken from him by various interventions, I think, as it still is, but certainly at some points there was probably a big intervention. But I'm not going to go into that. And man, of course, unfortunately, and this is something that I've been told, and I think it is true, that the hardest thing to realise is that we have created our own problems, that like I have in my life, because I've always had choices. I've often been presented with two choices, and I've known what the right choice was, but I have consciously, or subconsciously probably, but I've still made the wrong choice because of fear and because of misdirection by the controlling powers that be, shall we say, where they put fear into you. And they even put logic in sometimes. And you say, oh, well, this is the more practical, the more easy way, and, oh, I can't do this, I can't. And yet you know in your heart that you should be taking the other route. And time proves that to be true, because you never have peace by doing that. And I could say that myself. My whole life has not been peaceful at all. It has been, I could almost say, misery in a way. In fact, if I hadn't lived in such this practical, real world and such that logical way of thinking, I probably wouldn't want to be here. But I've tried to find a few little, even sometimes we even use the material world to keep us going as a source of pleasure, or to keep us going. Like, oh, I like an ice cream, so if I had an ice cream today, I'm on top of the world. Even your addictions can keep you going, because they give you, and they're wrong things actually, but it's still, it keeps you going. But it also is part of the deception. It's like making us wrong to where we are not really benefiting ourselves, shall we say. I'm getting confused here. I'm probably rambling so much. I'm really sorry that I'm not very good at this at all. And I'm totally unorganised, and I'm just talking off my head. I've got no plan, no, I should really have things like people do videos and they give a little bit of information and it's organised, and to me that's the sensible way to do it. But yes, it's unfortunate that the people that we trust and are controlling everything do not have our interests at heart, and actually they don't really have anything. I don't think that they we know that a lot of the things that we set up, we've set ourselves up, and like I say, human beings have actually made. They've always had the choice. That's the joke of it too. Is that that's the dog underneath me? I'm sorry about that. But the joke of it is that human beings trap themselves too, because there is some sort of creator type law. I think there must be, because otherwise, if they could wipe us all out and they want to, why would they not just do it? And the fact that they haven't shows that human beings were given free will. And I think that there could only be some sort of intervention almost. This is just my idea. Some sort of intervention only if our free will is violated. But see, the trickery and the deception of this world is that we actually go along with the bad ideas. We get tricked into thinking that the bad ideas, the control, and all the evil stuff is okay and it's good for us. And so we actually make a choice. So no one can come and save us because our free will is actually not been violated, even though we have been totally lied to, totally deceived and totally tricked. And if there's beings out there looking, they'd say, oh, those poor humans, they've been crushed. But we can't intervene because they are allowing it in a way. Because it's like if they show us stuff on the TV in a movie that shows the truth and we say, no, that's fantasy, that's because we've been conditioned and programmed that way. See, everything has been to where we've all been so conditioned and programmed. Like if we're told a certain thing, then we can only operate on that basic fact that we believe to be true. But if that's false, then, we're operating under that. So we have to make the wrong choice then, as I say. So, but we're still making that choice. So no, probably even God himself, if he was there, he'd probably say, well, I want to come and save them all, but I can't because, and this is only like talking that way, but I can't because they got the free will and they're actually going along with those choices. Those things that are presented to them that they should be saying, hey, this is not right, they're going along with it. They're tricked. Yeah, sure, I can see that my wonderful humans are tricked and deceived, but I can't intervene because the free will, I said there will be no intervention. They will be given free will and no one can interfere with their free will. So we are like prisoners who are giving the wardens the keys to our cell to lock us in. We're freely doing that. We're freely imprisoning ourselves. We're freely going along with all this terrible things that are in the world. We have been doing it since all along, really. But it's getting to where we're being tricked to such an extent to where if some of us wake up, then they'll have to totally control us, totally take over our minds, because it is all a mind control thing, really. Because you might say, oh, I've got my own mind, my own thoughts, but they're not your own thoughts. If you're believing everything you see, and even your way of thinking and your way of living is being directed by what's on your TV or what's on the world around you, you start to think that is you. It's a bit like things that we accept today we might not have accepted 50 or 100 years ago. We would have objected to it and said, that is not right, that's wrong. But now we accept them because we're being told that it's okay. We're being tricked. We even get tricked by, like I say, the media, the celebrities, the people we see, all these people, if they start saying, oh, this is all right to present this or that, we start to think it's normal and it's okay and it's healthy for us. And we actually say, oh, that's because we're free. We're a lot more broad-minded now. Oh, we accept a lot more things. We're broad. We're advanced. Whereas in reality, even things where I thought I was broad, where it actually made me feel important to say, oh, I'm broad-minded, I accept anything. I'm not old-fashioned and backward. Even though I'm old, I'm not. I used to always think that. Now I realise that even that was a conditioning, a brainwash, to where I now have to say I know nothing. I know nothing. Here I have rambled on to you as though I know everything and whatever. But, like I say, if everything is a lie and everything is a deception, that means I know nothing. I'm a baby. But at least a baby has a clear slate, they can start, whereas, we've got all the programming and all this shit that's been put into us. Even if we half acknowledge that some of it might be wrong, it's still there. It's like our whole being. It's our whole identity. How do you get past? It'd be a bit like if I said, hey, I'm trying to find an example, but it'd be a bit like, I'm a transgender, okay, because they seem to talk a lot about that these days, and I personally prefer to keep away from it. But I'm only using it as an example, not to make any opinions on actual people's sexuality, but I'm only using it as an example of brainwashing or potential brainwashing, right? But supposing I'm a transgender, and hey, I've had issues with a lot of things in my life, so believe you me, I'm not making any judgments or any opinions at all, really. I could say things about myself, how I thought about myself for a lot of my life. In other words, like if I said, hey, I'm a woman and I've always wanted to be a man. And hey, I'm not saying that isn't even true either. Okay? I'm a woman, but I've always felt that I would have been better being a man. And if it haunts me enough, and if I've got the potential to change it, if I got the money, and if I'm really encouraged that way and got a lot of, and if I really, can't just even be like someone that thinks like it and perhaps dresses a bit like it and couldn't, but I really feel that, I can never be even halfway happy unless I become something different, change what I suppose what's God's given me or what's naturally been given to me anyway. And then I do it, I change myself and maybe I'm happy, I don't know. I can't speak on that because I haven't done it and I haven't spoken to that many. But even that could be a deception, even your happiness or even your contentment, because if you have been programmed to feel that way, conditioned by society, conditioned by your upbringing, by your traumas and things, what I'm trying to say is we know nothing. We don't even know anything really about ourselves. We could just be most of us are living a lie even in ourselves, even to what we think we are. We don't really know what we really are, most human beings. We are told how we should be. If you're told how you should be and it's programmed in you from when you're a baby, that's what you think you are. And if your life circumstances lead you on that, and those circumstances are by a control system, what even you think you very much actually are, your very identity, your very essence, is a lie too. And that is why this problem is going to be so hard for people to actually change the world and to actually save ourselves, because that is so hard to accept. It's like you just would want to walk away and die almost. I know I have felt that way myself, because it's like, hey, what am I? Who am I then? If everything is a lie and everything has been a mind control and a deception in every single way. Because I have now discovered, and for myself, I believe it to be true, and I'm sure most people would say I'm out of my mind. And to some extent I am, but I also think that I can now see that most of my mind has been taken from me, that has been controlled and manipulated and mind controlled. But then you have to come back and say, hey, where do I start? Like, what am I? Yes. And then you would have to then you would have to look much further and start to say, well, what we were originally meant to be. And there again, if you're still under that, because I have not advanced enough myself, I have not got to a high spiritual place. I know that I should be there, but due to circumstances, because of all the pressure on you, the mind control and being targeted more so, if you start to see things, you're going to be stopped. They're not going to let you progress to a higher spiritual, peaceful place. They're not going to have that, because that ruins their whole thing, because we have to be kept down. We have to be in a low vibration. We cannot afford to be in a high, how shall we say, Buddha or Jesus-like state to where we don't care about the world. We have to be kept in our fear state. We have to be kept to where we're frightened and living in this material world. We have to. Once we started to think that we were superior and that we were all that we were meant to be, they've lost. But if everyone could do that and realise the deception, they're gone. I believe that. I believe that without even lifting a finger. But there again, every human being is not going to be possible to do that. In fact, even a very few are not possible. I can't do it. I'm aware of it. I know it should be done, but I can't due to physical pressures on me. I cannot do it. I'm struggling. I want to. I know it's there. And I know it could be there for some people, because if they've got better circumstances than me, they possibly do. But it's still going to be a very few. And the only way this is going to happen is if it gets to a certain number, and then the rest will follow, because unfortunately, yes, we've shown that we are like sheep if we're manipulated. We shouldn't be. See, we're meant to be all one, but at the same time, we're all supposed to be all individual, I believe. That sounds like a contradiction. So we are unique each individually, and we're all different, but we're also all part of one. We're all connected, and we're all disconnected. And we're not even individual now either, because we're mind controlled. We think we're individual, but we're actually mind controlled. So we're actually totally blown, really. I know that myself. Even now I've got a headache because of all the environmental factors around. Like, it's an unhealthy world we live in. That's another thing too. We need to get our bodies and our mind better. But how can we when everything is so dirty and so much against us? And I could go into all that, which I hopefully will in another video, the practical things of how we're being suppressed even at basic levels, practical levels, so that mentally we can't get even a little bit back. What I'm trying to say is, because most people have lost that humane side of their mind because of trauma, it's been pushed to where everyone is very narcissistic, shall we say, even psychopathic to some extent. That means they do not really love other human beings. They've been separated. We've all been separated. And because of that, it's only going to be a few that are going to elevate spiritually, and the rest will follow. Because the rest will follow, not because they're spiritual or good. They'll have to work that out and maybe get that back themselves over time. But they will follow because they will see the practical, intelligent, logical aspects of this. That, if there's fluoride in my water and I'm being poisoned, I will follow that spiritual person because they're right. It's not in my interest to kill or to be against my fellow man, because, hey, the powers that be are poisoning my water. They're going to kill me too. I'm part of that human race, even though I don't really care about the other human being. Part of it, I will not survive. And this is how people, and even at that level, even the most psychopathic person or the most narcissistic will go along with the practical aspects of the fact that we are controlled and not being looked after, and that we are being led down a path that is not for our own benefit. Because even if you're in the lowest state at a survival level, when you start to realise that the more caring ones are pointing out to you that even though you have let yourself be pushed down, and it's not your fault, because this is what every human being is subjected to. They're subjected to trauma from the day they're born, to keep them in this negative, non-humane, non-empathetic state. I see that. And the few that have escaped that, or that are still in it, they're still under control because of the system that we have. Because obviously in this world, the majority is what is going to make that system go. I mean, look at Jesus. I mean, look what happened to him. I mean, there's no point in having one or two spiritually good people if the whole population is not. Those ones will just be destroyed, and that's what basically happens, unfortunately. But if Jesus could have said to people, "Hey, look, perhaps even you bad guys, you're all leading me to the slaughter, but hey, look, your water has got fluoride in it. They don't like you either. You're going against me, and I'm trying to help you. And the rulers that you're supporting, the powers and the authorities that you're obeying, they're poisoning you. So, wake up, and I'm sure most of them say, hey, yeah, you're right. Well, we may not follow Jesus, but we're certainly not going to follow these lot, Signing off, someone's at the door.